friends, welcome back to another video into my very chaotic, messy studio. If you're new to my channel, my name is Melanie. That's me, hi. So real quick, I want to give you a pan around my very chaotic studio right now. Now there are two very important things you need to know right off the bat. I share my studio with two coworkers, one of which is 6 years old and the other is of the canine variety. So my studio is always in some state of chaos. My daughter and I are basically human tornadoes when it comes to our creative space, and we're also the kind of visual people where if we can't see it, we forget that it exists. All of that aside, the other thing you need to know about this space is that it used to be a porch. This used to be a porch that was falling off the side of our home until I had it renovated a long time ago to be a closed-in room. It's not insulated, and you can see right there, these are like the windows that go into the main part of our home. So this is basically right off the side of our home, and it's a very long, kind of awkward space because again, it used to be a front porch. And this was the front of the house like 100 years ago. Now this is considered the back of our house and the street has moved to the other side of our house. So here is the canine variety we had mentioned earlier. I think she may actually be the boss of this studio, especially on sunny days when she thinks this is her domain. So if you ever hear barking or tippy-tappy nails in my voiceovers, you know which cute face to blame for that. Her name is Ketzi, by the way. And no, we don't know exactly what kind of breed she is. She's just precious and adorable, and she's about 11 years old now. Okay, so back to studio talk. On the left side of my studio is where I do all of my art making. But over here on the right side is where I do order packaging and product photos, and this right here is actually my little I'm proud of me wall with the books that I have illustrated and published. And right now you're just kind of getting a little tour of the things that I use to package up my orders, my coloring books, my very old laptop right there that I use really only to print labels at this point because it won't do anything else. Here are more packaging supplies and also some of my finished artwork that's waiting to go to new homes. And then on the next shelf down is where I start to store all of my coloring books that I ship out, along with a few other things that don't belong here, like my flower press and a stack of seconds coloring books. More on that drama later. But even more coloring books and shipping supplies, bubble mailers, backing boards for my coloring books or art prints, more coloring books in that bin. You get the idea. This is the packaging area. Now back over on the other side of the studio that you're actually interested in, we have these very cool and custom drawers right here. These are something that my father actually built for me a very long time ago when I was running a different business, and it was actually in one big tower, and I cut it in half so that I could put a countertop on top of it and turn it into drawers to hold my art supplies. So this top drawer here just has some supplies that were given to me that are all kind of vintagey or antique supplies for the most part. Then down here we have kind of a mishmash of things. There are some acrylic painting supplies, my pan pastels, a couple of markers, a couple of things for my brushes, some tape, some erasers. It's just kind of things that I don't want all out on my desk, but I do actually use quite a few of those pretty often. This drawer has paint, things like gouache paint, watercolor, extra watercolors I should say. My jelly gouache is underneath here. A few paint palettes are in here. There's the Himi jelly gouache down there. And then over here is my acrylic gouache inside this little box. Definitely a bit of a disaster in this drawer, but up until recently I haven't been using a lot of the things in here, so I haven't had a need to organize it, but maybe that'll change here pretty soon. Underneath that, I've got a set of water mixable oils, which I have started finally to use. This box here has a bunch of drawing, just basically pencils and kneaded erasers. That little box right there has some reference photos in it basically. And then right here we've got lots of extra brushes that I don't really use, at least not on a weekly basis anyway, which would mean they get tucked way down at the bottom. Then over on the other side, here are some little projects and paintings that are kind of in progress and are not done yet, things like some ornaments and some pressed flower things. Here are paintings that are completely done, sketchbooks that are full. These are a lot of old watercolors. I used to do a lot of watercolor and then sell those as watercolor clip art packs or finished pieces when I used to be on Society 6. So this is just a bunch of finished watercolor paintings. These have all been scanned into my computer, so they're saved and immortalized. Down here, this is a drawer full of like some paper goods that I need to deal with at some point. And then at the bottom are some of my daughter's watercolor paintings because, like I said, this is a shared studio space. And the last thing I will give you a little peek at are some of the books that I keep right to the left of my art making area. Just a few reference books, books on florals. I also tend to press flowers and then put them inside of these big heavy gardening books that you're seeing me point at right there. I have a bunch of flowers I need to get to. But now we are ready to go ahead and start tackling the disaster. The thing I decided to do first was to start with my daughter's area because it was the part that was making me a little bit crazy. So my approach to these kinds of projects is just head for the next thing that's bothering you most. I don't really have like a really organized plan of attack. I just go towards the next thing that's bothering me. Does anybody else work like that? It's always such a good feeling to get this tidy up done and to get the counter spaces cleared, because then both my daughter and I come back with this renewed sense of creative energy and we actually want to make more things again. Typically my daughter works right here, which is kind of right in the middle of the room, right where the door leads you to, and she does a lot of watercolor painting and drawing. That's her favorite thing to do usually, and then I'm just right off to the left to her usually working, so we're kind of in this L shape, and it's just really special to be able to share this space with her in that way. It does get a little bit crazy and chaotic because of her tornado nature along with mine. We definitely make a lot of messes, but ta-da, look how much better that is. And now here is a monumental moment. I am removing her step stool that she has used for the last 5 years. She has colored and drawn and markered all over this little thing, but she is officially tall enough that she really doesn't need this anymore and is just taking up space in here. So then I decided to move over to the packaging area of my studio and deal with all of the boxes I had just been throwing in the corner and the shipping supplies that were all over, and tidying that up, especially while the sunlight was pouring in over here, which then led me to realizing that the windows of the door really needed to be cleaned because that also helps let more light in and make it look so much nicer. So I gave that a really good clean and that was super satisfying. There's the 6-year-old we were talking about. You see her? She's out there enjoying the rare bit of sunlight we had this week where it had actually melted all of the snow. Said snow has come back now and we're also covered in ice. But it felt really good to enjoy that sunshine while it was here that day and to get these windows cleaned up so that they could let in the sunshine again, which also made me appreciate the rainbows and prisms that were being thrown off by this little crystal and moon hanging from my window. Look how fun and cool that is. I had to get my daughter to look too. We love a rainbow. Alright, so back to the other side of the studio. The next thing I wanted to do was kind of clean some of these other surfaces, and while I was tidying some other things up, I did find some of my old artwork. This is actually from high school. That was a bit of copper. Then here are more of my watercolors. This is when I first started getting into watercolor, and I was doing, my color testing and whatnot, and some of my very first pieces were in this folder. Embarrassing, but also real. And then inside of these cool filing system things are a bunch of my other watercolors that I was selling as clip art packs, which I actually do still sell as clip art packs in my Etsy shop, but they're definitely not like a big seller anymore thanks to AI and Canva and whatnot, but they're still there. You can kind of see the evolution of my work that way, which is kind of cool. If you'd ever be interested in seeing me do a more thorough flip through of some of my old artwork, let me know. That could be kind of fun for me to go down memory lane and show you. After doing just a little bit more sanitizing and cleaning a few things that were really bothering me, I just did a couple other small little tasks that were on my man, I need to just do this list. Do you have one of those? Like this right here. This is one of my most recent illustrated coloring books, and I had just plopped it in the window and it needed to go over on my I'm so proud of me wall. So I finally did that. Here is your sign to just start tackling some of the things that you need to do. You don't have to do the whole space, just do some of the little things. This is actually day 2 now, and if you peek outside the windows, you will see we are now covered in snow again. So I was not kidding. That little sunny, no snow day was rare. Today I am tackling putting away an order of coloring books that had just arrived. So as I go to put these books away, it's actually a duo task because the other thing I have to do is quality check them, not just put them away. I don't know what's going on with KDP. There are some serious inconsistencies sometimes, so you have to quality check your books when you order from there. And sometimes I get a batch and everything's looking really good, and then occasionally I'll get a really bad batch where things look terrible, but then I don't send those books back because I learned that they just then put those to the side and then sell them to my customers. So yeah, not cool, but not really sure how to get around that right now as a self-publishing artist without the money to pay for big, nice printed copies. This is the way I have to do it for now. So just double checking all of these, and I did end up finding a couple of really crazy printed ones. I think 2 of them, which I'm going to show you in just a second. So for now, I just keep all of those books in a seconds pile. Maybe eventually I'll sell them as very damaged books. Sometimes I just give them to my daughter to color in. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is right now. If you would be interested in a very cheap copy that you just pay shipping for, let me know. So this one here, so bizarre. How did someone not see this when they were putting this in the box to ship out? It's got this whole piece of paper on a chunk of the pages actually that was never cut off. So this is what the book looks like. I don't know how you missed that, whoever packaged these up. All right, enough of that nonsense. The moment we've all been waiting for, a look at the new tidy studio. Here she is in all her glory. Right here, I got out this little organizer bin I've had for a while and put some acrylic paints in it instead of having them in a box underneath the counters. Here is a look at how I've set up my desk now. This is new. I did a new thing with all of my colored pencils, got them out of the box and into these pretty jars, and I love this new desk setup. And this is a cute paper doll from Italy. We're just gonna look at some of my favorite little bits and bobs around the studio. A little jar of pebbles that I love and glass gems. Some of my favorite figurines that inspire me sprinkled around the studio. A plant that I don't understand how she's still hanging on, but she is, in a giant pot. One of my owls, because after all I am the swimming owl, so I need some owls around the space. And then we have one of my mixed media glass art pieces where I sandwich some of my watercolor paintings in between 2 pieces of glass. I loved that one too much to sell it. Along with this one, couldn't give this one away either because this was the first time I combined my paintings with pressed flowers and the glass art. I also do all of the soldering on those. My favorite little color wheel that I like to spin sometimes. Using my own artwork and photographs as inspiration on the walls. Highly encourage you to do that. Here is a blanket that I use as the backdrop for my talking head videos. It's actually my painting on that blanket. And a nice big pan around the space again. So that is the area you guys see most frequently in my videos when I film the "this is my studio" shots. This is the area that you're seeing. This is where I'm making 99% of the artwork. Then we'll move this way. There's the area where my daughter usually works. And then way over on that other side was the packaging station. One other change I made, which I don't know that I really have the room for it, was I brought my old easel up from my basement that I used during college. It's been down there since I moved here, and I haven't used it really since, and I thought, well, you know what? If I'm going to use it, I need to have it in the studio. So here it is. Here's the packaging station, somewhat reorganized. Things are in their proper places for the most part. There are no longer a bunch of empty boxes over here. We'll see how long that lasts. And another little look at my I'm so proud of me wall. All right, we'll take one more look back towards the other side of the studio. I hope you enjoyed this peek into what my studio really looks like and that you feel a little more normal if your space is also a little bit chaotic. It's okay, we are too. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I hope to see you back here in my studio to make some art with me real soon.